I'm sure you've heard the saying about how to cook a frog. Place it in a pan of cold water and slowly increase the heat. By the time she notices this, she will already be cooked. True, I have never tried it myself. My name is Wendell. Perfect name for a cuckold, huh? My wife's name is Abby. She was and still is great. We met in college in business class. I was planning on going into mechanical engineering, but I wanted to learn more about business in case I invented something that I wanted to patent and sell myself. Abby was going into business. She was going to take over her father's car dealership, Honda, Jeep, Chrysler. She was looking for a man who could provide her with extra income so she could enjoy the luxuries of life until her stingy father put her in charge or died, whichever came first. Despite the attention of many men who looked better than me, we dated and got married. I felt so happy. After a few years, it seemed like we had it all. Nice house, cars, thanks to her dad's dealership, of course, and great sex. We kept 3 accounts: mine, hers, and ours. Abby's father made sure that I would not become part of her future business. He readily agreed not to lay claim to any business that I might create, especially since I did not have one at the time. My impression of her father was that he was a typical used car salesman who somehow started a dealership. Later, he proved that I was not far from the truth. As I approached the infamous 7-year mark of marriage, I noticed a decrease in the frequency and intensity of sex on Abby's part. I was about to say something when she brought it up herself. "Wendell, we have a really good life, and I love you more than ever." I thought, this is it, but I'm afraid that our sex life is becoming boring. I wish we could do something to revive her. For example, I was afraid of her answer. Maybe watch pornography or something else. Sounds good. Little did I know that I had just been placed in a pot of cold water. Abby brought home pornography that we watched together, and it really spiced up our sex life. We tried to imitate some of the things we saw in the video. Some of them worked for us, but others didn't work for us. After a couple of months, Abby started bringing in videos that showed threesomes, mostly MMF. They seemed to really turn her on. Soon after, she asked, "Have you ever thought about a threesome?" It's hard not to think, given the videos we've seen. What do you want? Because we both know how secure our marriage is and how much we love each other. What if we tried a threesome with a real person? With a woman, or with a man? And how will it work? You can look for a woman who is ready for this, but I can look for a man. The one who finds the person first invites him to a threesome. After this, we can decide whether we want to try again or not. What do you think? I don't know. I need to think about this. Let me help you decide. I want to show you how much it turns me on just thinking about it. The burner under the pan has just turned on. Guess who found the person first? Abby announced that Leonard would be coming over on Saturday evening to meet me. He was a rather handsome, somewhat elderly man, very confident. He was a client who bought a car from her. Abby served us our drinks and sat down with Leonard on the couch while I settled into the chair. After some small talk, Abby offered to promote the show. She said the guest should go first, since I had been with Abby many times before. He and Leonard stood up. He slowly undressed her, kissing and caressing her as he went. I was torn between anger and excitement. By the time she undressed, they were no longer paying attention to me. Seeing your wife with another man is life-changing, and not in a good way. I didn't mind because I agreed to the deal and because I hoped she would decide to stop on her own. But she doesn't. She brought the guest to the peak and he discharged. Until that moment, I didn't realize that my heart was beating faster than usual. It took my breath away. Abby announced that it was my turn now while Leonard recovered. We moved into the bedroom where, unfortunately, because I was so horny, it ended in record time. Abby was just starting to get horny, and Leonard took my place. It was only after Leonard's 3rd time that I had a turn again. Then Leonard again, and we were done. When Abby returned to the bedroom after kissing Leonard goodbye, she was excited. Isn't it wonderful? It was even better than I thought. And what do you think? I expressed my pleasure, despite my misgivings. I wanted to wait and see what the results would be in our sex life. I was happy that we had mind-blowing sex for the next few nights. I could only attribute this to our participation in the trio. Several months passed and several more MMF threesomes. I hoped and tried to find a woman to participate, but to no avail. I figured it was simply easier for women to pick up men for lewd sex than it was for men. I was starting to think that women didn't think I was attractive enough, but some said they would go on a date with me, but wanted to be the only woman. During each threesome, I usually received less than the other partner for each session. The mind-blowing sex after the threesome sessions became less and less intense as the weeks went by. I didn't have much enthusiasm to continue, but Abby didn't stop. But at the same time, of course, we continued to have sex. Abby, however, rocked the boat herself. "Wendell, you are the most wonderful husband in the world for agreeing to try something new to spice up our sex life. There is one small change I would like to make to our next meeting, if you don't mind." "What's the matter?" "Well, I've noticed that I get more aroused when you watch me and a man having sex with me than when you and I have sex. Will you let me see what happens if you just watch next time? We could have intense sex right after he left. Please." How could I resist her? The water has just warmed up to medium. The next time I just watched Abby and the man have sex. Abby seemed insatiable. She wore this man out. And, true to her word, she attacked me as soon as the man left and repeated her attacks over the next few nights. Of course, since she was so pleased with me just watching, we continued this scenario the next time and the next and the next. I didn't feel the water getting hotter. I waited but was afraid of her next statement. "Wendell, some men had a hard time maintaining their stamina while you were watching. Do you think you could go to the other bedroom while the next man is here? You can listen to it and probably enjoy it as much as you watch it. Let's try it once and see. Okay? You know my answer. The water has just risen to its maximum." Soon, Abby seemed to like one man more than the others, Ted. Ted was a new salesman at a car dealership. He became her regular client to the exclusion of everyone else. I stopped listening and did something else in the house. Sometimes she and Abby would take a break to recuperate and ask me to get them a drink. I complied and was rewarded with some pity sex later. After they realized I wasn't listening, I decided on a whim to listen once. It took one eavesdropping session for me to finally realize that I was being boiled alive. Ted asked her why she even needed to have sex with the cookie. He volunteered to satisfy her as often as she wanted to make up the difference. "Don't laugh at my husband, he's not that bad. I still love him and need him." "Come on, you don't need him near me." "Ted, I need his money right now. At least until I take over the dealership. I know I don't need him for sex anymore, but I can't help but feel sorry for him. Poor thing, he does the best he can with what he has. Let's not ruin what we have. It shouldn't be too long. What if I want you to stop having sex with him? I don't like to share. I don't want to risk losing him. I have already reduced the time we have sex. I admit, it's hard for me to get aroused by him when I imagine what it would be like with you. I got better at pretending to have fun with him. Let me think. The truth is that I enjoy living with him and having sex with you." The frog just jumped out of the pan. I headed to the nearest bar to decide what to do. After running through several scenarios, I realized what the best thing to do would be to ruin the broth they were about to make. I got home just as Ted was leaving. I would have loved to wipe the grin off his face when he looked at me. I hired a private investigator to look into Ted and Abby's personal lives outside of my home, as well as their financial affairs. All this was preparation for a possible divorce. Since I agreed to her meetings with Ted, adultery could not be an advantage for me in the divorce. It turned out that hiring a private investigator with an excellent forensic accountant was the best investment I ever made. Since I was having so much trouble finding willing women on my own, I posted an ad on Craigslist. I advertised for a woman who wants good housing and money in exchange for sex and friendship. Then he described himself and posted a photo on the internet. I couldn't believe myself. I must look better than I thought. It took me 3 weeks of interviews before I found what I wanted. Ronda. Ronda was a couple of years older than me. She was tall, with large breasts and a luscious ass. maybe up to 20 pounds overweight, but it doesn't look too bad on her large body. Beautiful eyes and big, juicy lips. Her hair is dyed red to hide the beginnings of gray hair. Ronda went through a difficult divorce, and her husband had a better lawyer than her. Financially, she gained very little from this marriage. Her ex-husband tormented Ronda in a drawn-out divorce case until she finally gave in just to get it over with. Another marriage in the near future was the last thing on her mind. I told her my plan. She liked it. We became close enough to be sexually compatible. In fact, my first intimacy with her almost made me propose to her. Almost. Time to spoil the broth. Abby, can we talk? Of course, what about? Well, I was wondering if we could agree on a regular schedule for you and Ted to meet, like Wednesday and Friday. Why? Well, I'd like to use the guest bedroom on the nights you and Ted aren't using it. I don't understand. Why do you need it? Well, now I have my own girlfriend, and I would like to bring her. Do you have what? Friend. One lady. How are you and Ted? You cheated on me behind my back? Well, I couldn't find a woman to do MFF with, but I found one who agreed to have sex with me. I don't think you'll mind because we're not having a threesome anymore. It's just you and Ted. I think that was the first time that it really hit Abby that she had changed the game from what we had originally agreed upon. But why do you need this? Am I not giving you enough sex to satisfy you? Not anymore. We're having sex less and less. And when we do have sex, all I get now are sloppy seconds and merciful sex. When I'm with you, you seem to think about Ted, pretending to enjoy sex with me. I think it's only fair that I have another woman since you have another man. It was interesting to see how she had to use brain cells that she had never used before. Somehow, what you're asking for seems unfair. How so? Well, you agreed to our current agreement. I didn't agree to what you were suggesting. Okay, it was you who suggested having a threesome. Then it was you who suggested that I just watch. Then you asked me to leave the room. You've been having sex with another man for months now. Just Ted and me. Haven't you noticed an improvement in our sex life? Once upon a time, yes, but not recently. Tell me how fair it is that you continue to have a lover, but I cannot. What if I promise you that our sex life will be better if I also have a mistress, like you promised me? Honey, I wouldn't mind if we had more sex if that's a problem. Maybe I wasn't as attentive to your needs. Sorry, I've had enough pity sex. If I cannot make a fair deal, I will refuse to allow you to have a lover. She looked surprised. She was in my hands, and she knew it. I think everything will be fine. Are you sure she's not trying to trick you into getting a divorce or getting your money? Just like you're sure that Ted won't do the same to you. Once again, I saw new brain cells being used. It never occurred to her that Ted might be interested in something more than sex. Well, I'm not sure Ted and I will continue our current arrangement for that long. Could you wait a little? Maybe you and Ted are breaking up? I don't think he knows that. The other day he told me that you would buy him a new car and make him a pit boss. It was a parting gift for the time we spent with you. Oh, the pain Abby is going through. Okay, I'll talk to Ted about the schedule. When do you want it for the first time? Tomorrow night. I'm tired of the motel routine. So soon? Are you sure she agreed to come into the house where you and I are having sex? You, me, Ted, and others. She even winced at this. I added, I'm quite sure she agrees. The next evening, I brought Ronda into the house. She was wearing her sexiest outfit. I have no idea how the bra kept her breasts inside. Must be titanium wiring. I introduced her to Abby, whose face became distorted. My wife looked like she was torn between being polite and wanting to tear Ronda's hair out. I interrupted their pleasantries and explained that Ronda had to get up early tomorrow. We went upstairs hugging each other. I didn't hear Abby come up the stairs, but I had no doubt she was listening from the hallway. My shoes were thrown to the floor, my keys were thrown on the nightstand, and my belt clinked against the armrest of the chair. All this was done so that Abby would hear. Ronda and I started making love, noisy love. Ronda was naturally loud, and I encouraged her even more. I used every trick I knew to please a woman. This was great for me, and I thanked Ronda for being so expressive. I wasn't trying to be too loud. What you heard is what I felt. Wow, I think I really like our agreement. Over the course of 2 hours, we repeatedly pleased each other and then went downstairs. Abby stood below and tried to smile as if everything was fine. It was obvious that she was crying. I kissed Ronda goodbye and promised to call her tomorrow. As soon as Ronda left, Abby suggested they go to bed. I really need to go to bed, but only to sleep. But I had sex with you after I got a new boyfriend. I'm really excited now. Let's make love like old times. I'm really sorry. Ronda probably wore me out more than the boys did you. Maybe tomorrow evening. The next night, Abby was on fire. Our sex was more angry than loving, but I'm not complaining. I knew she wanted me to say she was better than Ronda, but I didn't. I wanted her to think. When Abby and Ted started having sex louder, I laughed. But it didn't matter. Now I left the house whenever they were there together. There was another good reason why I was going out. Ronda chose a house for us, and I paid for it with bonuses I received from lucrative patents I developed without Abby knowing about it. Ronda didn't pay rent or utilities. We had an agreement that she would get the house if she stayed in our relationship for 10 years, or when I agreed to end it, whichever came first. She was happy to see me every time I came. I came more and more often. For months, I prepared financially. The money I received from the company for my patents increased as I continued to be successful in my company. This money went into an account that I opened with a private consulting firm abroad. I paid Uncle Sam his share and hired a very smart CPA to make sure the money was legitimate and would not be part of the divorce proceeding. Abby and I had an agreement that our affairs would be divided when we divorced, but I needed additional protection. I didn't trust lawyers. What about divorce? I never thought about it, especially since I learned about the possibility that I would have to give up too much. I told you I don't trust lawyers. Abby brought this up. Wendell, it seems we don't see each other anymore. Sometimes I think you would rather get a divorce and marry this Ronda. You know, I thought the same thing about you and Ted. By the way, how's old Ted doing? As if I don't know. I don't know. I found out that he was cheating on me with another married woman. Dad fired him. He really wasn't a very good salesman. Imagine this. Who would have thought that he would get involved with another married woman? Tisk. Guess who let her know? You don't need to rub it in. I can't believe I was stupid enough to believe he could actually care about me. I had a man who took care of me, and I took him for granted. I really miss the days when it was just you and me before all this threesome nonsense. I was really stupid. Wendell, can't we go back to those days? I'm afraid those days are over. In fact, I'm leaving soon. What? I thought you didn't want a divorce. Don't know. I just don't want to live with you or have any financial responsibilities with you anymore. I found out how much money you loaned Ted and how much trouble your father's dealership got into. Do you know he has a huge gambling problem? I think that Honda headquarters is about to pull off the franchise. This will probably kill the dealership. How did you know about this? You will simply abandon me when I need you and your support most. I thought you'd at least give Dad and I a loan to keep the business afloat. We could take out a second mortgage on the house if it doesn't last. I might think about lending it to you. As soon as Ted pays you back the money you lent him. She changed the subject. What about our marriage? We spent many good years together. I love you, and I am sure that you still love me. I admit I lost my way for a while. From now on, all my love will be focused only on you. I promise. Abby, I don't see any problem in staying married to you. I have no financial incentive to get a divorce. Ronda and I have no desire to get married. I admit that I may still love you, but most of the desire to be with you has poured out of me since you started having sex with other men. But I don't need other men anymore. I only want you, my husband. Not the slightest chance, but I'll see if Ronda agrees to a threesome. Judging by her reaction, I think Abby's pot just boiled and the hot water burned her very badly. It turns out my relationship with Abby didn't end there. Rhonda looked at the financial statements my detective found. At the beginning of her previous marriage, she worked as an executive secretary at a Toyota Ford dealership. Rhonda knew the ins and outs of a successful dealership. I lent her money to take over the car dealership. It was eye-opening to see when it took over. I was surprised when she asked me if Abby could be kept as a salesperson. She was good at this. For a while, I enjoyed Abby's pained expression when I showed up at the dealership to take Rhonda to lunch. I finally decided to talk to Abby alone. "Abby, I'm surprised you haven't filed for divorce. Why?" "I was glad you didn't do that. I get some kind of perverted pleasure knowing that we are still married. It also helps me weed out the weirdos who pester me. I just showed them my wedding ring. Don't you think it would be cleaner to make our separation official?" "You will get some money. It will help you. As the main salesperson here, I enjoy my work. I have to admit, Rhonda is a great boss. It just sucks that she can be with you and I can't. I think that by remaining married to you, I can still retain a glimmer of hope that you will return to me. I don't see such a prospect." "What about sex?" "I told you that this will only happen if Rhonda agrees to a threesome." "She said no." "Could you ask her again?" "Could you ask her? Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.